Come on, let's go.
Hurry up.
I was grabbing a beer.
Welcome to Porch Talk. This is the penultimate episode of the year before we go on hiatus. We won't be here next week. We'll be back the following week for the last episode. I'm Eric.
Ezra, Brockwood Elementary, class of 06, valedictorian. And for that girl running around telling people she was the valedictorian, get your story straight. Nobody's buying your narrative.
I just love that someone got so upset. They were like, I just can't let this stand. I was the valedictorian. I need to put my foot down.
Crazy. An elementary school valedictorian at that. Like, why would you try to steal my crown? Lying shit.
Yeah.
And all those Harry Potter books you were checking out, we know you weren't reading them that fast.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Now we got
Yeah, on you.
allegations going. That's insane. Fake reading books couldn't be me. Listen, I'm a strict book club guy. I got nothing but respect for the pages.
They don't make them like that anymore.
Definitely not. So, like I said, penultimate edition. Be here this week, off next week, back for the bachelor party recap. Are you packing your swim trunk for the trip we're going on?
No. What?
It's a big time swimming adventure.
I would never even consider that.
Yeah, can't wait. Got a lot to get into, and not a lot of time. So I think we have to just start with the downfall of Diddy, because I don't think we talked about it last week because we're doing confessions. I think we got to talk about that.
It's tough. Had to remove a song from the wedding playlist. I do love "I'll Be Missing You," but it just, I guess, the timing is not right all of a sudden. So
Yeah,
had to
probably
take
not.
that one off. No Diddy, no Kels. It's making for a hard time to just have celebrations. So I'll put that out there. Um, it's it's crazy because people have been saying these things about Diddy. Like, if you're tapped in, people have been saying these
For a
things since like
while.
2004, 2005. Everybody just thought they were lying, they were greedy, they were after money. Um, Shout out Orlando Brown for damn
Mm,
near all of his stories being true, and everybody thought he was crazy, and it's like,
yep.
damn, was not actually crazy. So that's insane. Um, that lady Jaguar, I can't remember her last name, who's been on Diddy's ass for years as well. Kind of crazy how consistent she was and how right it appears she was. My biggest my biggest thing with the downfall of Diddy is, who is this? Like, hold up, stop messaging me. My biggest thing with the downfall of Diddy is just Usher's involvement. And I've talked about it before.
Mm,
Usher was preyed upon, and then he like sacrificed Bieber to Diddy. That hurts my heart. Because once you watch all the videos that are like coming up with like Diddy's interaction with Bieber, Bieber
so
definitely
weird.
looks like sketched out. It's like cringe. And I just can't get over the concept of like the parents who signed away their legal guardianship of Justin to Usher. And then how is this a thing? How was Usher able to legally sign away guardianship for a weekend? Like, where is that even? What lawyers do they have to like find these weird loopholes? Who, like, I would have never imagined you can sign away guardianship for 3 days, 42 days, 48 hours. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, who's looking into those rules to be like, yeah, we can definitely do this? Like, that's just weird in so
Yeah,
many levels.
that's like strange knowledge to ever have. Happy he's been caught. Happy some people are gonna get their resolution. Hopefully they can heal from this. But I do think there's a ton of artists who were affected by some of these Diddy shenanigans and they'll never speak on it. And then I also think there's way more people involved than just the Diddy. And if he's ever allowed to see a court date and testify, I think dark, dark things would come out about this.
I mean, like the top thing of when it came out was like the 1,000 bottles of like lube or whatever he had going on, like the freak parties. There was videos coming out where he had like two beds on a basketball court, like just in the middle. I'm like, what is going on at this guy's house, man? What kind of weird shit were people getting into? Was he forcing people to do with these freak offs?
Yeah, that's scary.
God.
These freak offs. I could
Yeah.
only imagine. And it's like Cat Williams was telling the amount of people that
Mm,
like have been on record for years, like damn near decades, telling the truth about this, and people just kind of turned a blind eye. It's actually crazy. It's hard to put any weight behind it because 50's a jokester, but 50 Cent has
yeah.
been saying this shit for years that Diddy was weird, he would never be around Diddy, Diddy's gay, all this stuff. And niggas just thought it was 50 being an asshole.
Yeah, because 50 does like to clown a lot because he really truly does hate Diddy, but God. Fucking and then the posts of people like, damn, when Diddy was dressed up like the Joker, who knows what kind of freak shit he was getting into that night? Like, you don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, nah, somebody was getting it.
God. Yeah. I'll be interested to see what happens. I mean, like, I don't want to get conspiracy theories, but like a party you has to worry, like, is he going to kill himself or be killed if he's ever going to testify about this shit?
Um, I truly, I don't think they'll let him testify. What I think will happen is, I think that, I think that kind of like other dude, he's got too much information. Once they started to reveal the list of who might be involved, you're talking people like Jay Z. You're talking maybe what is Beyonce's involvement. You're talking fucking. They said Mary J. Blige. They were saying J Lo. The list is insane. And once you think of like the high end celebrities that have been around Diddy since day one, you've kind of got to ask, like, were all of these people involved? Did all of these people know? Were all of these people like turning a blind eye if they weren't like actively involved? The amount of the amount of public shame at the very least that could come from this if he was to testify, or more indictments of other people. I think that what's going to happen is they're going to stage a suicide and he's going to die in jail, prison at some point before a trial ever comes. Because I just think they know he knows way too much to release. Because once you look at some of the people who were at these Diddy parties, yeah, some devious names that would have to come out.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where if you really start digging deep, so listen, your whole wedding playlist might be off. Who knows?
Peace. No, like truly. Well, I could play all sorts of Kanye because he was not fucking with Diddy.
Yeah, Kanye had his own little battles there for a while. I don't know where Kanye is, if he's still crazy or not.
Bring him back.
God, so it's crazy thinking about Kanye, and you're like, not even that bad when you look at what Diddy's doing. Like,
Oh
shit.
yeah. Yeah. And then when you think about it, the amount of like, because I had seen something where they were saying, I don't know how true it is. It was a TikTok video, but they were talking about like the artists that Justin Bieber signed, and like he signed. I think it was like he had Billie Eilish for a moment. He had a couple of other like younger artists that didn't actually like make it, but he had signed them. And they were saying he was signing these people to keep them off of Bad Boy, so Diddy didn't have any actual interaction with them, which is like
Oh,
sweet on his part because he knows what he went through or whatever. But once you think about it, it's like Diddy really had access to not just like women, not just any and all sorts of men, because he was a terror. He had a lot of money. He was turning niggas out or drugging them and still turning niggas out. But the amount of like kids he also had access to, once you think of that, it's actually sick. Because he had making a band, he had other like people were pitching artists to him all his life. He's probably had
yeah.
access to way too many kids. I seen a video that said Diddy is what the world thought Michael Jackson was, and I was like, damn, you
Oh,
might be right.
I fucking saw Meek was he dropped a tweet. He was like, "Listen, here's 100K to figure out what the fuck's going on when my name's getting dropped in there." And I'm like, brother, I don't. You just
100K is not gonna clear it up because there's some devious stories about you, buddy.
Oh, all right. Yeah, let's see. What else do we got? Can you tell me a little bit about your thinking behind that the caveman narrative is bullshit?
Oh, okay, absolutely. I don't know if you've heard this, but a lot of people try to say that cavemen were like the apex of human beings.
That's
They were
crazy.
they were supposed to be fit. They were supposed to be strong. They were eating right, this, that, and the third. They were eating clean, no processed foods. They had to hunt. They had to gather. They had to walk on feet daily. So they were supposed to be like the apex of humans. Outside of them being fucking stupid, because like knowledge wasn't really a thing, they probably had like day to day common sense. I don't know how much like IQ knowledge they had, if that would be the right
Yeah.
way of measuring that. I don't know how intellectual they were, I could say.
Yeah.
I also just don't think they were these physical specimens that they try to say that they were. Because one, look at the rate that hunters with guns have success. It's not high. Then look at the rate that animals who hunt in packs have teeth, fangs, run 60 miles per hour have success. Also, not high. So these cavemen with spears, they weren't hunting successful. They weren't eating great protein. It was really like berries, nuts, things that they could farm. They weren't great farmers yet as cavemen. Cavemen weren't farmers. They were gatherers. They were hunters. And then at that point in time, we're thinking what? Just depending on the climate, I think we're saying they were Nordic at some point. So it's probably cold out there. You're probably trying to stay warm. It was probably a lot of laying around not doing anything. These niggas were surviving. They were not thriving, and at no point were they the apex.
I think that makes sense. I mean, that the hunting point's probably the best point because like it's probably stupid hard for them, even if
Yeah.
they like can get a good spot. They're like, oh, this is where the guy like the accuracy, like you probably had some elite guys there, but it's like with anything, like you might open like your TikTok app, see some guy who's like ripping, like, oh, that's cool, but like I don't fucking look like that, you know, like I'm not the apex. Like those are probably a lot more regular people as cavemen than people want to think.
Super regular. Definitely were surviving and not thriving. Were not these jacked up muscle heads. Like that was not the case. I think if we're to look at apex shape, apex human being, apex physique, my three would be I would have to do a deeper dive in Africa to find out about some of those tribes that have a better answer. So I'm going to cross that out. Don't know enough about that. The Native Americans, indigenous, whatever we're going to call it, they were probably up near the top because not only were they living just depending on what part of the climate you chose. If these were like the Cherokee or some of those ones on the East Coast, if you're settled in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, that range, it's never going to get too cold. It gets hot, but doesn't get too hot. You're still able to move. They knew how to farm for themselves, and they were hunting. I don't know how great their hunting adventure was, but there was a plethora, and they were using every part of the animal. So that, along with just how strong they were, I think the indigenous Americans they stood a chance, and then being the apex. And then I think African American slaves. I don't want to sound like a homer here, so I am going to be completely unbiased. The reason I would have to cross them off the list, just giving them a shout out, the reason I would have to cross them off the list, were they working all day? Yes. Were they forced to work all day? Yes. They were probably strong. Not probably. They were definitely strong. They weren't really farming like that because they weren't farming for themselves. They were farming for masters. So it's not like they were getting those. They were getting the hand me downs. And then I don't know what their protein intake would have been because all the good
Mm,
protein was like going to master in the house. So that's where like chitlins, pig feet, things like that. And even that was like not an everyday meal. So I don't know how great of an apex physique they would have been able to build like that. There were probably one offs, but just the way they were eating, they were probably like scrawny, underfed, and just worked hard to the bone. So they were probably like stronger in willpower than like actual like physique and things of that nature. So I probably got to settle on the natives. The natives were probably the apex.
that makes sense. I was thinking about this more as you were talking, and I was like, honestly, like cavemen are probably more similar to like they have like a farmer strength because like farmers aren't like super muscular. That's probably them because they're not really lifting per se. They're probably
Yeah.
just doing like specific things that make them very strong at those things, but they're not going to be like super visually like glamour muscle strong.
Oh yeah, no chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't know why people always look at the cavemen as like the apex. Like they were just more active, but like who knows how active they were. Like
Yeah,
we really will never know. I mean, I'm sure they're walking a fuck ton more because they don't have technology, but that kind of is what it is.
that is what it is.
All right. Interesting one that you brought up. Do we think anyone's crazy or are they traumatized and don't have the correct outlet? What made you think about this?
I was listening to a Reddit, and they were talking about something like that. And then I was listening to a song, and they were talking about Kanye and
Hmm.
how he ain't been the same since his mom died. And they were like, "That's the day Kanye died." And I was like, you know what? These two things definitely correlate, and that might be the truth. Because I know one person in specific whose dad passed away. That's still my dog. I reach out to him when I can. He ain't really been the same nigga since. And I think for some people, like that's enough to really change them. And then
Yeah.
just thinking about that and like expanding it to a bigger platform or a wider variety of issues, I was like, you know what? If you don't have the right outlets or like know these things, there's a chance you can be perceived as crazy or like high strung, temper, all of these things. And like, I don't know if crazy has ever been the right word because it's like, dang, this nigga just does not know how to deal with his emotions. He doesn't have the outlet to deal with their emotions, and he doesn't know like I guess he doesn't know like what's next. And when I hone in on Kanye, it's like Kanye says a lot of crazy things. Kanye even does a lot of crazy things in the grand scheme of the word crazy. But it's like, are we gonna say Kanye is crazy? Or are we gonna say Kanye is like been traumatized and hasn't known how to heal since of that trauma? Because Kanye always had some outlandish ideas, was a little to his own beat of his own drum type. But before his mom died, he was never this.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of talk that Kanye is or became bipolar. Like, I know there's some allegations at one point that were going around about like he might have been like addicted to like laughing gas through like a doctor. Like, so who really knows what's going on? But I do think like, I mean, think about minorities in general. Like, they're not the biggest on just going to therapy or talking to people about stuff. You just kind of keep it in your bottled up and kind of handle it yourself. So like, just not even having the right outlet of finding someone to talk to or like get that kind of stuff. Like, if that stuff goes unchecked for a while, like that can
Yeah.
really get to you, especially with traumatic stuff that people are going through nowadays.
I sometimes think about like older generations because like once you get into like grandparent age, like I'll say 70 plus, that generation of men was really taught to like just be men. You know how like wearing that must have been on them to like
Mhm.
not talk about these issues with nobody, go to work every day, be a husband, be a father, and just bear these burdens, these deep, dark emotional distresses they had, these traumas they had. It's crazy once you think about it. Like people really live like their whole life like that. They something traumatic could have happened to them at 20, 25, and they went the rest of their life and just bottled it up and went about their day.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that's why people drank so much. Just drank or they fucking like abuse their spouse, which
I
is
was gonna say they
terrible
was
outlets to go.
beating on their wives and kids. And no, we're not saying that that's okay, but yeah, that probably played a part for real.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know when, if it'll ever. I think it's definitely probably the most like open now, but I think there's still like a
Yeah,
stigma behind it for sure. And it could just be the older generation kind of looks like it and it might just get passed down still, but I
I'm
don't know.
still passing on the stigma and the judgment. I think that we got to find a middle ground because some of it is a little too much. Like, come on, man. A middle ground, though. A middle ground would be solid, somewhere in the middle.
I think talking to people can definitely help. I don't know if you need to go on pills immediately. I think there's a bigger prescription issue going on in the
Oh
US with
yeah,
just giving pills out all the way. So maybe try some other avenues before that for sure.
yeah. I know. I just actually was talking to somebody the other day. Shorty, she was on PT. She was on anxiety and depression medicine, and then for like years, and then she went to a doctor not too long ago, and they told her she had severe PTSD. So like they were medicating her for the wrong thing for all these years. And it's
Jesus.
like the problem I have with that is somebody who had a license to do this told her it was anxiety. Somebody else told her it was depression. Somebody is now telling her, no, you don't have that. What you actually have is PTSD. I guess how many times can they get it wrong and just keep putting you on different medicine? It's like we're gonna try it until we find out which one works. Which I mean, sure, there's a process of elimination for things like this. Should it be years, going on a decade? Probably not. And then at what point is it just you stop taking your medicine because you felt like it wasn't anxiety or the depression, you didn't feel like it was helping. So they've got to give you another diagnosis to give you hope that there's an answer to put you back on these pills because big pharma got to get paid.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, and just how, I mean, think about your everyday life, how you have good employees, you have bad employees regularly. Like, it's the same thing with doctors. Like, I know we think of doctors as a higher level, but there are a lot of shitty doctors out there. And
Oh,
like, you can kind of fall into those traps of shit like that.
yeah, that's definitely true. It's crazy because I do think that like they glorify the title, like, oh, he's a doctor, he's got to be good, and it's like, that's not necessarily true. I'd admit to some doctors who was definitely shitty. I definitely vet my doctors beforehand, do reviews on them, and I got some family who do therapy, and I know some of them got some people who are in this solely for the money. They was good at it. They don't mind talking to people. They did the classes. They don't give a fuck about you. For that 1 hour you got them, cool. That hour go up, they do not give a fuck about you. I promise you. And I'm not saying that's every therapist, but there are some like that. There's some like this in every profession. I think what people fail to realize, and that doesn't even make them bad therapists, honestly. I think what some people fail to realize is you can be good at your job and do that job because it pays you a lot of money and not actually care about that job at all. Like they just happen to luck up into a job that pays them a lot that they happen to be good at, but that don't mean they're there to help you. That don't mean they actually care about you being better. Because regardless, they're gonna get paid every time you book a session.
Yeah. No, it's real crazy. I mean, I was thinking about when we were down for the suit fitting, we are talking to Mom B, and she was like, "Yeah, if you got like any issues, come talk to me before that you just start going on like pills or something. Like, I'll get you right before any of that." And like, she works in the medical industry. Like, that says
Yeah,
it all.
yeah, that's true. Because that's their like go to. It's like, what pill can we put them on right now? And it's like, what in the? But that's an American thing. It's big pharma. We've got to give big pharma their bread.
No, it's crazy out here. You got to watch out. I mean, that's crazy that the girl went through that for like so many years, and it was like, yeah, we they were just wrong the whole time. You what, like, oh,
Yeah,
cool shit. Like, love that.
that shit is crazy because it's like, damn, what else could they be wrong about? And that's why I have my doubts with just that's why I have my doubts with medicine as a whole and a lot of science. First off, it stems from the Big Bang Theory. I know God created this, not some bullshit. So that's first and foremost. But then just things like that, it's like they can be wrong time and time and time and time and time again. And then it's like, well, they got it right. And it's like, nigga, they were bound to get it right at some point. Process of elimination. They was gonna nail it. You're throwing darts at a board. You're gonna hit something eventually. So
Yeah.
to me, that's where it gets kind of strange. Even like with doctors, it's like they can. My neighbor back home, my parents' neighbor, grew up right next to us. They misdiagnosed. I think they're trying to sue for malpractice. They misdiagnosed, and then this was like over a 4 or 5 year period. By the time they finally got it right, he had stage 4 cancer, and they told him he had like 3 or 4 months to live. He's still alive, and I think it's been like 7 months. But like, this is someone who was coming in day after day after day to get a diagnosis. Something wasn't right. Y'all got it wrong for 3, 4 years, and then by the time y'all did get it right, it was stage 4 cancer. That's unacceptable.
Were they going to the same spot? Because I also think that's probably where people
Yes,
fuck up in general. It's like
he's
if they have like a primary or something, they go to one place, and I'm like, no, go if you're not liking the results, go somewhere else. There's so many fucking places to go nowadays.
no, that is true. He's definitely older. He's also a vet.
Mm.
I think he did like the full
Okay.
20 and then retired. So he was going to one of the vet hospitals, and yeah,
VAs.
he was going to
Yeah.
VA, and they was fucking him up. But they say terrible things about the VA. So You couldn't pay me to take somebody I love to the VA.
Definitely fucking not. Switch the vibes up. Before we get into our next topic, we wanted to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this week's episode, Zencastr. When we first started recording PorchTlk, we were using whatever rinky-dink setup we could, but we realized we needed to step our game up to a legit setup, and that's where Zencastr came in. It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log into your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guest. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Trust me, I know. If you have thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute it to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code PorchTlk and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experience we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story, and honestly, they have a free plan too if you need it. It's just as good. Shout out to Zencastr, and let's get back to the episode. Thoughts on cheap engagement rings?
Yeah, like a little backup. Because I wasn't thinking about this. And then Mariah said something about it for the honeymoon. Because she was like, a lot of people have said like they lose on the honeymoon and just that much travel. They don't want to this, that, and the third. And I was like, you know what? Never thought about it as a woman because I don't even want a like wedding ring like that. Like that, I just want one of the little black junks. Um, but I was like, I never thought about that, but definitely makes sense. Because just depending on what your finances are, you might have spent a pretty bag on this. Yeah, I'm hoping that you insured it. Everybody insure your engagement rings for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but even at that, you probably don't want to go through the hassle. I, excuse me, I haven't. I don't know anyone who has, but I'm sure just like all insurance, it's gonna be a hassle to get a new one. They probably gonna up your premium. Your payment's gonna get higher. Just dumb shit like that. So having a backup one that like you wear to the gym or you fucking wear when you're traveling, shit like that. I don't hate. Excuse me. I don't hate the idea of that.
Yeah, I think a traveling one makes sense. I don't know. I mean, we're not currently ringed up right now. So I don't know how much of a hassle it would be to be like switching out your engagement rings on a regular basis. But like for traveling, like especially if you're going abroad and stuff, definitely makes sense. I've seen a couple ads for companies that are selling those kind of things where it's like, oh, do you want a cheaper version of your like a dupe of your engagement ring for when you travel? So there's clearly a market out there. I think it makes sense.
A dupe would be interesting. I would be interesting to see what the price on like an exact replica. Oh my god, replica would be because it would be like fake. It would be like completely fake. So
Yeah,
I'm
if you're
assuming the
getting
price
like
would have to be like so minimal.
yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it's. I mean, it's not going to be anything close to a real diamond. Like you're probably getting like moissanite or whatever. So like,
I'd pay
who the
$100.
fuck cares? Yeah, sure. That's nothing. If you're gonna, yeah, if you're going like a honeymoon, you're going abroad, and you're like, I don't really like. I want to have it. I don't want to worry about it. That makes perfectly good sense.
Until somebody flexes their ring on you. Like, do you see what mine looks like? And it's like, damn.
It's like, oh,
Jeez.
mine's sparkling. Why isn't yours sparkling in the sun the same way? Like,
Yeah.
what about just before we switch up, engage like cheap engagement rings in general? Do you think people like should care if you like? Let's just say you can't really afford it. Like you're not going to spend the 3, 4, whatever grand on an engagement ring. Like you only got $1,000, so you kind of go cheap now. Should that matter?
I don't hate it if like the shorty involved is okay with it. I do think you should try to like scrounge up some dollars to put together a nice engagement ring as like that's something significant in like your journey. But it's not significant to everybody. Not everybody cares about that in particular. What I would say is if you get a cheap wedding ring, I would hope at some point in life, tax return seasons, job bonus, you scrounge up some money from whatever. I would hope maybe you're interested in upgrading that at some point because I'm not opposed to like different rings for different avenues of life. Let's say 5, 10 years. I see some people who wanted to get their wives different rings after they birth their children. It's like, you know what, childbirth is something crazy. So I can imagine like upgrading the ring. You went from a wife to a wife and a mother. I'm not mad at that. There's no shot at people who can't be mothers. It's just a wife and a mother. You might deserve a little more. Or like again, you both get better jobs or you get a better job. I'm not mad at you paying more. So don't hate a cheap wedding ring. long as the person receiving it doesn't hate it, and long as you don't like try to upsell it as more than it was. Like, don't try to make this Walmart ring. You bought this at K's because we gonna know.
Yeah, I think that's what probably the most common thing is people get their rings upgraded whenever like it's usually like a financial thing. Like you don't have the money at the time, so you go kind of cheaper then, and then once the money comes in later in life, they're like, all right, let's upgrade you, get you the ring that you should have had all along, kind of vibes.
Yeah, that
We
and
don't. Mhm.
what was I gonna say? Oh, don't get like a gaudy ring if it's gonna be cheap. Like, don't get a huge fake diamond. Like, if you spend $200, like the diamond or whatever they're telling you is in there should be almost non-existent. You should almost not be able to see it. So do not spend $200 on a fake ring and end up with a huge fat ass rock.
Very fair. We don't have top five, but I wanted to talk about this because it affects your current state. Have you kept up with the Mark Robinson shit going
Fucking
on in
Mark
North
Robinson
Carolina?
is goaded. I
The
look.
man who said he's a black Nazi who would have owned slaves if he could. That's let me just put that out there before you say he's goaded. I
I
just need you to
love.
know that.
I love Mark's takes for comedy. Like, I have to see his anytime I put on YouTube TV or Hulu or whatever. Not Hulu, yeah, Hulu too. I have to see his commercials. His commercials are the funniest things ever. Like, this shit is hilarious.
Okay. Oh, all right. That's why I had to ask because I was like, I need you to know that he said some very just blatantly like Nazi racist nonsense, and I needed to make sure you were pro that nonsense. Oh.
Yeah, it's actually like it's insane.
I will definitely have to go look up his ads now because now you have intrigued me on how funny they are for sure.
Oh yeah, the hit shit's goaded.
So yeah, he said some absolutely wild stuff. He tried to deny it, even though it was like 10 or 15 years ago, and like it was an email, like using his name and stuff. And it's like he was like, "It's AI," and people are like, "Bro, what do you mean AI? Like AI's been around for like 2 or 3 years. Like, the fuck are you talking about?"
Crazy thing is he's gonna win. He's down in the polls, but they're gonna come out for him.
If he wins, I don't. I mean, they said he was down like 14 points in the polls.
Yeah, he's
Like,
down.
God,
It's gonna be the greatest comeback ever seen.
oh man. So, do you have anything else? Because we're not doing top five this week. I don't. Do you want to make any guesses for what the bachelor party's going to be?
Any guesses?
Yeah,
Just
where
a
we're
wild
going.
time. A great wild time. I'm expecting to be super fucked up. But I mean, the work weeks I've had, the work weeks the boys have had, like everybody needs just the time of getting fucked up.
Are you going to like for sure not be taking any work calls during this trip?
Oh yeah, I told them today. I was like, I sent out a coverage plan, who to contact, told everybody, do not contact me. My emails are off. I'm deleting teams for the time being. If you reach out to me, I will not answer under any circumstances. So, and I don't even like this job. So, come on.
God, yeah. All right. We can wrap this up. We will be back in 2 weeks. We'll recap this. It'll be the ultimate final episode of this year, or maybe who knows, end of PorchTlk. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But let's get into some music and TV recommendations.
For music, I'm gonna go with Only Gang, Polo G, 42 Doug. For TV, Horizon, the movie Horizon. It's a western. It's two parts. First part is 3 hours and 2 minutes. Second part,
God
3 hours, seven
damn.
minutes. But it is a fast 3 hours. Like, there's so many different storylines, and they're actually good storylines. I'm excited to watch part two. Just got to convince Mariah to sit down for another 3 hour western.
I feel like you're like low key kind of a Western guy thinking about
Oh,
it.
I love westerns.
Interesting. You and my dad both love Westerns. You guys would have just sit TV, watch them all day.
Might have to.
Where where are you watching these at?
Horizon is on HBO Max.
Oh, really? Interesting. Music wise, I hope you listen to it in the car today. Beam on Your Head by Harper goes
Damn, I did
incredibly
not.
stupid.
I gotta listen to it still. Actually, I listen to it when I go get dinner because we gotta go get dinner after this.
It's crazy. Bumps in the whip. It's only like 2 minutes long, so it's even better. Movie wise, we watched White Man Can't Jump, the remake with Jack Harlow. Not bad.
Hmm.
Not bad. He plays his part well. I was very surprised. Overall, good movie.
Might have to check it out.
Yeah, Hulu goes by
Did
pretty
he
fast as
fall
well.
off, by the way?
I couldn't tell you. I
I
feel like
remember Jack
honestly,
Harlow was like big for like a summer. It was like right around COVID, I want to say, or right before COVID. I ain't really heard no Jack Harlow in a while. He had that like glamorous remix, and that was like the last I heard of him.
I think the expectations were so high and the song just fell so flat that
Yeah,
that killed his momentum.
I could do it.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Paige. I'm sure she's tapped in on Jack
Uh,
Harlow. All right. That being said, we're going to this podcast up. Thank you for listening. As always, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Porch Talk, No A. There's an Apple Podcast. If you're on Spotify, watch on Spotify, watch on YouTube, share with a friend, subscribe, do the damn thing. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Peace.